I do not allow that. That is banned. Jail.
This is kind of a loosey-goosey episode. I don't know how I'm going to edit this.
Stupid radical heat sinks.
Was there a Vulcan left? Was it just like a pair of smoking boots?
And it was able to claim the objective, which of course was a decoy, and it blew itself up on the decoy.
This is why we play BattleTech. That's perfect comedy.
Welcome to the Odysseus Legion Podcast. Incoming message.
Just a couple of announcements before we get into today's episode. First, we are running multiple events at FlagCon next month, November 7th through 9th, including 2 salvage free-for-alls and a sold-out worldwide event. It is also the start of the last Iliad season of the year, and all of us will be there for matches and open play. Come check it out. Second, because of FlagCon, we will not be releasing a new episode on Monday, November 10th. Our bi-weekly schedule will resume with a new episode on November 24th. Hello, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Odysseus Legion Podcast. My name is Nicholas, and I will be your host for today as we talk about all things competitive BattleTech. And today we're covering our classic BattleTech format, the Iliad. Joining me as usual are my co-hosts Garner.
Hello.
And Luke.
Here, barely by the skin of my teeth, we had a branch on our wireless this morning, so hello.
And also joining us today as a special guest, Zess.
Hello.
Zess, aka Alaric Kerensky, has taken top positions in multiple BattleTech tournaments, most recently winning a blood name at Adepticon. Zess, let's start by telling us about yourself.
Online, I'm known as Alaric Kerensky. If you've met me in IRL, I am Zess Williams. I am the leader of the Black Wolves Mercenary Company, which is an online and now IRL kind of gaming group, which was formed originally in 2012, I think, for Mechwarrior Online coming out, and then expanded into many, many other things, and has seen a lot of changes over time. You'll see us at cons like Gencon and Adepticon. We're wearing the black BDUs with patches. I suppose, like you said, my recent claim to fame is that at Gen Con this year, I did win the Trial of Bloodright and have founded a new blood name, which is the blood name Mechwarrior. So it's been quite a few years between all the different tournaments.
There's a story behind your selection of that blood name, if you'd like to tell us a bit about that.
Sure. So we went to this Bloodright with the intention of winning it because this Bloodright was unique. Usually a Bloodright has a blood name pre-selected before the tournament, and it is announced that you will be competing for Showers, Kerensky, Ward, etc., right? That they have already chosen the blood name, and the winner will get to accept that blood name. This year they did something different, where instead of that, the winner gets to canonize a completely new blood name, which is unprecedented, right? In the history of BattleTech, to my knowledge, only 3 blood names have ever been even added to the list of 800, which is Magnuson, Miraborg, and Kell, right? My buddies and I really wanted to go down and win this because 4 years ago we lost one of our best friends. His name was Jamie Mechwarrior, and we actually just passed last month on the 23rd, the 4th anniversary of his passing. And so we saw the opportunity and we're like, hey, if we win this, let's name it after Mechwarrior, so that way we can kind of memorialize Jamie within BattleTech, which is, I mean, it's by far my favorite IP on the planet, and it just kind of keeps him close to home if we get him in this one, right? So it means a lot more to me of bringing him home in BattleTech. After winning it, it still feels like a fever dream to this day. But getting his name added to the roster, I can't wait to see what Catalyst will do with it, because we don't know if it's going to be in a book, we don't know if it's going to be in a source book. We'll just have to see, but looking forward to it.
Yeah, that is a wonderful story of you being able to honor your friend like that in this game and universe that we love. So, what have you guys been up to, BattleTech or otherwise?
All right, so I have just been doing a preparation for Southern Assault, primarily for the Alpha Strike, because that's what the locals prefer to play in the circle that I am. There's another group that likes to play Classic, but the weird thing about the Classic event at Southern Assault is that it's not restricted to tech level. It's restricted to What's in the BattleTech manual?
Yeah, it's very vibes based from what I saw. It's that, and then also there's like an actual play podcast, and they're like no customs unless they've been on this actual play podcast.
Wait, what?
Yeah, there are three custom mechs that are available. The Percival, the Gawain, and I forget what the third one is. And it's because those like Fortress Miniatures like own like mech designs that they made. A Greyhound, that's what it is. The Greyhound 4.
On a scale of like 1 to 10, how munchkin are they?
I have not looked at them. I just was like, I'm not even trying to figure that out. And I instead went with a whole bunch of things that I normally can't bring, which are not great.
Oh no, I just tried to look this up and I found TRO info available from Fortress upon request.
I can't remember his name right now. The guy that owns Fortress, like, he's actually a really cool dude. I met him at Nova this year. And he really loves the IP and universe and seems to like really care about like trying to make his mark on it. As we discussed 2 episodes ago with Chris, where we were talking about how like he's trying to make like a full assault tournament circuit for Alpha Strike. But anyways, I digressed.
Hearing you mention that classic stuff in the Iliad episode, I feel is really appropriate because it's just a reminder of why we've done what we've done.
I mean, I'll let you know how it goes afterwards. I'm bringing a lot of dumb things that aren't really good at all.
Oh, I'm so excited to see how you guys do.
I'm bringing a Prey Seeker, all right? Nobody's even heard of a Prey Seeker.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, it's great. It's an ultralight with re-engineered lasers.
So the one I'm bringing isn't even the re-engineered laser one. I'm bringing the one with 6 machine guns.
Oh, it's that goofy little asshole. Okay.
I've been doing a lot of prep work for the Alpha Strike side because Chris really wants to get some practice in with that, and I have not gotten a lot of practice in with my things that were advanced / experimental.
Oh boy, so I have 2 things I've been up to. I was supposed to be in the Iliad tournament that we were doing at Cantrip, and then I forgot what time it started, and I woke up late. However, my list is reusable. I have all of my stuff, so Merrick Madness will be appearing at FlagCon in a couple of weeks in Ithaca. If you want to meet some of us, we will be playing at FlagCon, and my kind of Merrick nonsense list will be making an appearance for that.
I'm super sad about that being the same weekend as Southern Assault, by the way.
Yeah, this is kind of an also-ran for the people who can't go to Southern Assault, but it's a nice little kind of local convention. If you're in the upstate area and you're looking for something to do on... Nicholas, please remind me what the dates are.
Oh, I will insert a promo for FlagCon right at the beginning of the episode.
And then insert it again here.
Incoming message.
FlagCon, November 7th, 8th, and 9th in Ithaca, New York.
So I've been working on that. I've also been working on a hobby project that I've kind of been plugging away at every once in a while. So I have a Shadowhawk 2C that I painted like the Dougram from the eponymous anime. And I had ran a poll on my blog a couple of weeks ago for what I should be painting my Marauder as, because I recently got the Bounty Hunter Marauder, and after a very, very close vote, the answer came back, I should be painting it like I'm gonna go for Glaug here, the command pod from the Macross series that it's based on. I have been in white painting hell.
I will be there shortly with my Legion of Vega.
Oh, ooh. Have fun with those.
Zess, what have you been up to for BattleTech?
I suppose we already covered some of it, right? The past 2 years have been focusing pretty heavily on the tournament scene. So, BattleTech Championship Circuit, which I won in Gencon 23, Adepticon 24, and then Gencon 24. And then this year, again, I was sponsored by Hextech, and so I went to Adepticon, which unfortunately didn't really have any of the normal tournaments that they have. The only major tournament that they had for Classic was Solaris. So I played Solaris for 3 days straight and managed to win that. Yeah, so the way that works is that there's open play for 2 days, so for Thursday and Friday, and you basically get a starting point of a pilot with C-bills and what's called CP, character points. And over time, you build up fame, C-bills, and CP, and you can spend those to get new mechs, to get new abilities, to join houses or sponsors. Stables and sponsors, sorry. But you also have to join a house if you're affiliated with one of them. And the top 8 scoring players by kills, and then tiebreakers by fame, get to go to the championship, which is on Saturday. And so there's a list, and if you're on the list, you can walk on. And if you are like 9th and somebody doesn't show up in the top 8, then you get to join the championship as well, right? So those go down the list if people don't show up. And so that was interesting. I started in a Wolfhound -2, so I took it alone. I spent all my character points on alone at the beginning in order to get a slightly better mech. I got myself headshot in the 3rd round twice. Actually, I got tacked. I spent my 1 edge to defend the tack, and I got headshot and headshot all in the same salvo. So I died, had to restart a character, come back, and managed to get into a Scarabus and run around in that for most of the first day. Oh yes.
Big fan. Big fan.
There was a lot of people that were grabbing Mjolnirs at the beginning, but they were finding that the maces just were not consistent enough. And then I came out in this Scarabus. And my first thing, I ran, 16 hexes across the board, right up next to I think it was a mongoose. And I took half the mongoose off the mech in the first swing, right? And everybody's like, what the fuck is that? Like, this is a Scarabus. That's what a Mjolnir wishes it was.
That may be my icon.
I'm just looking at the Mjolnir shit right now, and I'm just... Why make? Because the mace is the one where if you miss, it drags you down, right?
PSR. Yep, you have a PSR.
PSR.
That's so bad.
It's awful. It's +1 to hit and a PSR if you miss. So it's like a bad kick.
Oh, I feel so bad for all of these people. Well,
3 people took it.
Solaris.
So it went from that into a Night Sky 6T for the 2nd day. I ran that entirely through the 2nd day. And so people expected to see me in the Night Sky in the finals, or at least another medium or heavy at the most, and were surprised when I showed up instead in the Neanderthal.
Oh boy.
There's some character progression going here.
Yeah.
I'll give it that.
I mean, you can see the theme, right? It was TSM hatchets. And so the thing is, I basically got everybody to believe that I was going to be going very hard with the hatchet on the Neanderthal. But I took the one that has twin stub-nose PPCs.
And capacitors.
I'd love that for everybody.
So the thing is, people kept backing up, like trying to keep me out of the hatchet range, but I'd intended the entire time to train everybody into the thing of try and stay away from me, and then just use the 9-hex short range on the PPCs to tear people apart. So I only swung the hatchet once.
Oh, and also, why it has an M-pod in the head. What is going on here?
Here's the crazy thing. I got to customize it. The M-pods came out and a supercharger went in.
Oh no, that's so fast.
I've never heard of a quote competition unquote that was more narrative competitive, just smushed combined together.
Yeah. No, but that sounds really fun. If Nicholas, if you can get the rules, or Zess, if you know the rules, I would be interested to see what they look like.
Oh, they are publicly available. I will get them to you guys. They've been revised since Adepticon because I broke a couple things, but
Sorry, Zess, when you said originally you took a Wolfhound -2, I thought you were misspeaking and it was a Wolfhound 2C. No, it's just this thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see it.
There's reasons for that. I'll get into it another time with you guys, but there's a lot of explicit reasons for every choice going up through based on character progression within the game.
Luke Garner, Zess, me. So, as Luke mentioned, we had our first ever actual Iliad tournament. Now, we're talking about Iliad this episode, so we'll go in a little bit more length here than I normally do for games played. Earlier this year, before I got laid off from a job, I really wanted to do an actual major full-on promoted Iliad tournament at about the time of FlagCon, but after job issues followed by finding out that Southern Assault was the same weekend, I decided let's not compete with Southern Assault, and we're not going to do a tournament for FlagCon. We did, towards my birthday, we did a birthday tournament. It was definitely more of a casual affair because everyone who signed up was a local, is a friend, is a member of our community. I feel so very loved. Thank you so much for everybody who came out. It was a wonderful time. We had 10 people show up. Would have been 11 if Luke had woken up in time. It was fantastic. If we had a few non-community members show up and express some interest, I know it was short notice. If we had more of that, we've taken it a bit more seriously and not have treated it as casual as I did. But I'm just so happy. Like, again, thank you so much, everyone who came out. I feel appreciated. I feel loved. And it really reminds me of just, the work I've done, the work that we've done in building this community and building up the Legion and the Iliad and the format has really not gone to waste. And thank you so much.
It occurs to me kind of after the fact, what I should have done is woken up late, had breakfast, and then come over to be TO.
Yeah, you should have done that or taken over for Sam.
That's true. Just be like, all right, Sam, give me your minis. I'm playing whatever your list is today.
Yeah.
I am quite sad that I was not able to get out of work in order to attend.
I was also quite sad I could not attend because I had services to go to for a family member.
Condolences.
Depressing. Anyways.
Yeah, another hard transition. Moving on to the first topic, which is essentially, what is the Iliad? How did we create it? How did it start? Our community really started because Luke reminded me that BattleTech existed back when I owned a board game cocktail bar. As the event organizer and owner of the bar, I was able to just turn around and instantly make Sundays Wargame days. Now, I called it Wargame days in case Warhammer people or anyone else wanted to show up to play war games, but it was really about getting people to play BattleTech. And half the time it was basically just Luke and I playing. Yes. Half the time we had up to like 8 or 10 people show up. Once you have people showing up regularly, you have to start thinking about, what are people playing? What are people doing? And then the first few times it was like, all right, everybody show up, 10,000 BV, and this era, or this, or standard rules only. And as a forever dungeon master, I just naturally find myself always going into like, how do I create something for people to play? How do I make this a thing? And I started looking through all kinds of formats. We played some Alpha Strike. We found the Wolfnet 350, and I also found the instant action packet. I believe you mentioned it in the first episode.
I think I was the one who actually found instant action, but I do just want to say here for a second, I think part of the problem with that we identified, which was where Iliad came from, is BattleTech's kind of in like homegrown scenarios are kind of dog.
Yeah, I was very excited with instant action, whether I found it or you found it, and I was like, oh, this is great, we can do a version of this. And I think I mentioned last episode, you just kind of like kicked me in the shins, like, no, mirror matches, what are you doing, you fool?
Well, we tried to do a couple of things with it, and then we realized very quickly that it was very easy for people to just kind of game that system, unless, I know, Zess, maybe you can speak about this, because I know Catalyst, the way they run their tournaments is the attack, they do asymmetrical missions, but you're allowed separate lists for your attack and defense force.
Correct. For BTCC at least, Championship Circuit. But the thing is, you only get those two lists, right? You can have your attacker and defender lists, but then that is your attacker and defender list for all 6 scenarios, right? So you have to be careful that it matches up in each one. Also, you guys talking about instant action, I know the person that created those rules.
Oh hell yeah! I was until they deleted their Tumblr. I was mutuals with Robert as well, but I don't think we ever talked.
And I know him through the as a demo agent.
Oh, is that what he's up to these days? Okay.
Yep, he's a demo agent. I've talked to him about it. It's like, literally, we've had a conversation on the agent Discord where it's like, oh, you're the instant action guy. And he's like, oh, you're the Iliad guy. Which is kind of fun. Or I think it was, oh, you're the salvage guy. I don't remember what format of ours he recognized.
It was probably the salvage because the Iliad is kind of less proliferated.
Yeah, well, he recognized me from something.
Yes.
In any case, we did look through a lot of other formats, and nothing really stuck. We got into Wolfnet 350 a little bit, and I started immediately working on a hex map conversion of it because I just prefer hex map play. Garner might have some other things to say in terms of Alpha Strike, but by trying to make the 350 into hex maps, then convert it into, wait, why don't I just make this for Classic? And the moment that happened and we started playing what became Iliad, started as a conversion of Wolfnet 350 into hexes, into Classic, and it's, once we started playing it, it's the most fun I'd ever had playing BattleTech. And I'm just like, nope, this is it. This is my favorite thing. I'm running with this from now on.
So, the reason why I feel like that the Hexed Alpha Strike didn't match up as well as I wanted it to was, A, it felt too close to BattleTech, so it was really sad, when like the first event where I actually met you, Nicholas, I show up with a Night Star that died turn 1. And I'm like, a Night Star should not die turn 1. I'm sorry. That's just that I big stompy mech. I'm not supposed to die that fast. And yeah, so that was a kind of a disconnect there. But after I got over that, I got better with it. But then it came to the point that the way that you have your map set up for this, long range is completely irrelevant if you're playing side by side map sheets.
I've heard this in other podcasts as well. A lot of complaints about Alpha Strike. You all know here, but people listening won't. I have never played Alpha Strike. I've seen it played. I know a little bit about it. I've never played it myself. But I always hear that the long range is nearly useless because it always goes off the board. And that medium range is the only thing that matters.
So, yes and no. I have been using long range to good effect, and especially my current list that I'm using at Southern Assault has an absolutely silly amount of long range that I'm using in conjunction with 2 linked lances of C3. Even so, like, I've won games at Motor City Mayhem because I had long range and my opponents didn't.
It has a use.
People undervalue it.
And a lot of people don't bring gunnery or skill 3 pilots.
Oh yeah, that was the other crazy thing. Like, I'm running Davian Guard, so I've got like almost my whole force was skill 3. Like, why did you spend all that PV? You could have brought an extra mech or 2. Well, A, I was trying to keep it to exactly lance formations, and B, I'm Davian Guard. I'm supposed to be skilled.
Getting back on track to kind of Iliad stuff. This is a format we're still kind of in process of developing. I think is kind of an important note. Nicholas has been at this for, at this point, I think close to 2 years, and the packet is long. I think there are ways that we could. I think there might be some ways that we could tighten that up maybe a little bit. But I think it is fairly kind of comprehensive and useful. I think there's definitely still some things that we could do better in it, especially kind of. There are some issues that we ran into this season in terms of the way kind of it interacts as kind of like a semi-competitive format as like a league system that we can maybe make some changes to. But overall, I agree with Nicholas. I think this is one of the kind of easiest ways I've found to just be like, if you are going to do a competitive format, this is on the kind of easier side, I think, for entry. It's pretty easy to throw a list together and just be like, all right, let's play.
That right there is a perfect transition into the next segment, which is a bit more about not just how the Iliad formed or whatever, but what's in it. The Iliad format is similar to Wolfnet and other things in that you have a larger force list that you create from which you deploy a smaller detachment to complete scenarios. The BV limit for your larger force is 10,500, from which you deploy 7,000 BV for scenarios. 10,500 because that's half of 7,000 on top of 7,000, which lets you more evenly divide forces and create blocks. Originally, it was 10,000, 7,000, and that was annoying.
For clan players, and maybe, Zess, you didn't interact with it at this point, but like, bringing, if you're at 7K and 10K, we found it was very difficult for clan players to bring non-very homogenized units if they wanted to bring anything heavy.
I didn't have a problem with it, but that's also...
Well, I mean, I think if we look at my list, if you take the artillery out, it's below 10k BV.
Yes.
But that's also because it's designed around a center point unit that then is having auxiliary forces designed around it, right? Not having 3 sets of 3500 that you're then blocking together.
I don't build my lists like that either. I think that is a method that's used for newer players to kind of build lists. It's a useful thing to get people into like a mindset of being able to build separate detachments, but like I find the better way to build a list is find 2 to 3 mechs of like certain BVs or BV combinations and just kind of make those be able to slide in and out.
For beginner players, we do actually mention and advise like that you create 3 groups of 3,500 BV that you can insert in and out based off your thing. You have your fast group, your main combat group, and your heavy group. It is very much a beginner-friendly way to enter, not necessarily how more experienced players play. Yeah, so Iliad is combined arms and up to 10 units in your force list, from which you can employ up to 8 units. We don't currently have a pulse limit, but we do have a jump limit and sort of like a mix of scenarios that kind of reward the wide gamut of play, so that there are scenarios that reward units that move fast around the map to try to claim objectives. There are scenarios that really award having big beef and the Steiner Wall of Steel and everything in between, that there's no real way I've seen to make a force that excels at everything.
I thought it was just take everything they can charge and charge.
Listen, that has worked.
Against all flavors.
So Iliad, while we just recently had our first tournament, is largely designed at this point around a league format. So the Iliad League started with players playing 3 ranked matches in 1 month and has since expanded out to 5 ranked matches in 2 months. And in which this means that it is... And that is to allow Iliad to sort of serve the role of, as I think I mentioned before, like a Friday Night Magic. The goal is to create something that people can play on a regular, nearly weekly basis. So if you want, your Friday game of BattleTech, like every Friday, you can find an opponent, you can play a game, there's a prize, there's a low bar of entry, it's kind of relaxed. This is what it is intended for. And so... matches are supposed to be at least 3 hours. There are cutoff points. The person who challenges rolls for the scenario, and
which is something
play
I've
it
never
out.
done.
It is standard rules only, which is kind of a complication. We mentioned, Gardner mentioned before, I was going to Southern Assault, where the list construction is Battle Mech Manual, which is kind of a different structure that, as a tournament organizer who's doing sort of like a convention event or a larger event, you can take more time to review lists. Iliad, because it is designed and intended to be closer to a friendly local game store type event, something that can be run with less knowledge or investment on behalf of the organizer, we are standard rules mull restriction. And that way the list check can be done relatively quickly by someone who doesn't necessarily have to be knowledgeable about BattleTech. They don't necessarily have to go in and check the equipment individually. They just kind of go, oh, this is there, listed as that, like check mark.
And that's like why I couldn't bring my Fennec in Southern Assault, because I forget what it was. I think it was the radical heat sinks don't exist in the Battle Mech Manual.
This is a contraption. What is going on here?
Yes, the boosted Master Fennec has radical heat sinks and an XXL engine and re-engineered lasers. I said I wanted to bring all of the dumb things that I wasn't allowed to bring, and then I tried to, and then realized that I could not make it happen. I wanted to do like the Fennec with a Cuirass and like the Omniscent.
At the Open this year at Gencon, one of the available mechs to choose was a Fennec. But it was the twin medium pulse, twin PPC one.
I love Fennecs, but because I'm a Fed rat.
I was tinkering with using it as a kind of a Scout C3 force backing up a an AC-2 carrier of all things, and it's a nice little machine. I like it a lot.
But anyways, that's the issue with the BattleTech manual, is that like I built like this list, like, oh, this is gonna be great. Let me just double check all of my stuff, all the stuff, because I'm like, I know XXLs are in it, I know boosted C3 is in it, I know that re-engineered lasers are in it, and then I was like, oh, son of a stupid radical heat sinks.
Yeah, getting perfectly one-shot by interstellar ops there.
Yeah. There are better ways that you can build more robust lists. I know that in terms of the Iliad, because it's not by default era locked, it means that when you use the mull, which bases its tech level on when the unit is introduced, there's some units that are in their era experimental. Like they're locked into experimental or advanced, when if that same unit came out at a later era, it would be standard, and that causes some issues. But because the format exists the way it is, there's no better way to do it that doesn't require significantly more knowledge and effort on the part of the organizer. So by default, I can't think of a better way to do this than just standard restrictions on the mull, faction locked.
Yeah. The tech restrictions are just also kind of weird. Like, for example, re-engineered lasers are advanced because armor is advanced, but they're just X pulse lasers with like only -1.
And I've toyed with the idea of making exceptions for certain equipment, but ultimately that goes back to that requires the event organizer to know what equipment, to look up all the record sheets, and possibly for a tournament, if we do expand out the different tournament advanced restrictions and list building for Iliad, but as a default in the league, until the mull changes, or if we possibly switch to Mech Bay, until one of those things happen, there's no way to really change that.
And then the other thing that I would like to say is that also I'm a firm believer in era locking. Not that I think that it's imbalanced between eras, particularly because BV, it's just I like the immersion that it brings.
We'll definitely run some era locked seasons at some point.
The flavorfulness of era locking is sometimes fun, right? Because it does give you a bit of a curated list of what you can bring, instead of it just being the massively expansive list of things you have by the time of Ilklon, right? Where you have so much wild stuff and things just get very, very out of hand very quickly.
Well, and this is maybe I've been tinkering around with this a little bit, but kind of what I've found is with the master unit list in play, Iliad kind of defaults to basically being Jihad era lists versus Ilklan era lists, because
Civil War makes an appearance.
Yeah, Civil War makes some appearance.
I'm in Clan Invasion almost every time.
I think that's because you don't do the thing I do, which is I build an interesting idea and then I force my interesting idea into an era. You build with the intention of playing Civil War, like Clan Invasion, but I'm almost certain that you could probably make it work in Jihad. But the reason being, basically, if you look through kind of in preparation to Dark Age, in lore, there's the thing where all of the different forces kind of rationalize their production and mothball all of their own designs to deal with the, like, Republic of the Spheres force reduction treaties. And the result of this is basically, if you want to play, like, Inner Sphere Omnimex and you're an if you want to play like Clan Omnimex as an Inner Sphere force, you're better off going with Jihad. Or if you want to play like a mix of like high tech and low tech stuff, you're better off with Jihad. If you want to play just like a bunch of mad cap like super hypertech things, then Ilklan all the way. But that's the main breakdown I've found.
I find as a clan player, Clan Invasion, you're stuck with some of those original clan designs that are not necessarily optimized, and a lot of them are just meh. Once you hit Civil Wars, when you get some of the, BV has existed, we're not balancing by tonnage anymore, let's rethink the entire concept of what clan mechs are, and you start seeing some of the really good stuff that I like. Jihad, you lose some of the stuff as you get into the society and all of that, like, fights back and forth, and so some of the homeworld designs that I really like end up not being part of the Inner Sphere clans. And so I personally find that I like Civil War and Ill Clan. Those are the two eras that I find myself drawn towards. Jihad, kinda. And then in Civil War is where you do start to see some of the more interesting equipment and mechs come around. So you do get some of the fun tech there.
Civil War really is just a fantastic era, right? Because you get a lot of toys on both ends. You get toys for the clans, and you get toys for Inner Sphere.
Heavy Gauss rifles.
And so things kind of seem to come up to parity more. And I think it's definitely the most interesting era overall from just a thematic standpoint.
You get Marian Hegemony gets interesting mechs in that they get their rocket launcher gimmick. Which I said Merrick. I may end up bringing Marian Hegemony just because I saw a picture of the Gladius, and this is all of the propaganda I need to look at running another rocket launcher list, because oh boy, that thing is sexy.
So moving back to the topic at hand here, Iliad, our current form of Iliad has 6 scenarios: Demolition, King of the Hill, Point Capture, Raise the Flag, Supply Raid, and VIP Clash. Some of these are self-explanatory to a certain extent. King of the Hill, there is an area in the center of the map area. Oh, we should talk about maps. So Iliad is designed around 2 maps. Each player picks one, and depending on the scenario, their orientation and the deployment zones may change based on an emphasis of moving into position or immediate combat and action. So
I would like to clarify that they are map sheets, not to be confused with like the map, like the neoprene mats and stuff, because those are battle maps.
Yeah, the paper map sheets. I love the neoprene maps, the map sheets, the battle mats, but because they're effectively 2 maps in one, and playing over 4 maps with the number of units that we are trying to use here would kind of extend the game out. There's no good way, short of players agreeing that they want to use one battle mat, there's no really good way to implement that.
You can cut it in half.
You could cut it in half, I guess, but
you can cut them in half.
Cut your map in half.
Cut the map. Yeah. Cut the battle mats in half. Solid. Anyways.
Is there a battle mat with the crescent map?
No.
Oh.
You're ruined.
So.
You stop.
Yeah.
Your stocks are down.
It is. I'm going to look this up real quick.
It's Open Terrain 2.
Open Terrain 2. Yeah. The most popular map I see used, and the map I honestly love the most when I'm playing Iliad, is Open Terrain number 2. If you look it up, it is in the Grasslands map pack sheet number 5. It is effectively 2 sort of level 1 crescents on 2 opposite corners of the map with a bunch of woods. It's just used a lot.
And the only reason I remember the name of it was specifically because I had to, for the game that we played Tuesday, for the campaign game we played Tuesday, it had recommended map sheets, and that was one of them was Open Terrain 2. I pulled it, I'm like, oh, that's what this is called.
Yeah. Listen, this is how you know we're real BattleTech sickos, is like, forget favorite mechs. Like, everyone has one of those. We have favorite map sheets. Like, I'm a big fan of Washout. Nicholas is a big fan of Open Terrain. Zess, I know BTCC usually uses like the neoprene like full battle mats, but I'm sure you have favorites as well.
And it uses 2 of them as well. So BTCC is on 4 like paper map sheets, basically, right?
I mean, I won a game at the recent tournament purely on picking the right map. So,
and they didn't use their tokens appropriately.
It's a whole conversation about hills and Gauss rifles. So King of the Hill is pretty straightforward. There's an area in the center, and you score points by having the most tonnage. This is a scenario that really rewards having some big, heavy units. VIP Clash is our other sort of straightforward kind of scenario where on each player's force list, from their deployment, their 2 highest battle value mechs are each a VIP. Destroying a VIP is worth 1 point, and when the VIP dies, it drops an objective hex token that can then be claimed for a 2nd point. All scenarios are designed around a cap of 4 objective points. Matches are determined by objective points, with the tiebreaker being margin of victory, effectively the amount of units that are destroyed. We have The more interesting scenarios that we have start with demolition, which is kind of our bunker-ish kind of scenario. Each player has 2 bunkers that need to be destroyed for a point each, and they have 2 demolition agents, each with a bomb that can be used to destroy the bunkers. Now, bunkers can be destroyed because they have health, a construction factor of 75 and an armor of 75. Now, you can't jump on the building with an 80-ton mech and destroy it because of the armor. And the armor in the front takes half damage. There is no armor in the rear, so you can sort of run forward and try to destroy it. It's trying to create this balance of you want fast units that can run forward and try to blow up the bunkers with bombs, but they can't be too weak because destroying them is also a point. So you don't want to trade point for point and not gain yourself some advantage there. What do you guys think of demolition?
Oh boy. Demo is I enjoy it because I like playing fast cavalry, and fast cavalry does well at demolition, but I know it's the one that's the gear check. Because if you have built your list and you haven't included something durable enough to cross the map under Withering Fire and fast enough to do that kind of in a reasonable period of time, you're going to have a bad time with demo games. As well as a good close support bodyguard. Like that's the one that I find the most just like, oh, I need to make sure I have like a lot of them I'm just kind of like, whatever, I have a heavy thing, I have kind of a fast thing. Like demo is the one where I'm like, okay, what's my game plan?
And your game plan versus me was hide quad mechs behind level 1 and
Yes. Yeah, my game plan against you was make you tear your hair out fighting a tarantula.
Yep.
I will say demolition is one that I'm excited to play. You guys know I've only had 2 Iliad matches so far because this is my first season, and so the only ones I've played so far are VIP and Supply Raid. But demolition after Supply Raid, I think, is the one I'm second most excited to try out because there was a lot of things going on here, right? Like you said, fast cavalry kind of has very interesting options that they can play here because you can react to the enemy pushing either one of your bunkers, with there being 2 places you have to defend on your side of the map and 2 points to aggress on the enemy side of the map. It's going to cause a split in focus. At least it should cause a split in focus for both players, right? And I think that can lead to very interesting game developments where you have to make hard decisions.
It can. Because you can also get ran over by Fenris battle armor while you're trying to plant the bomb with your Scarabus.
There's the special rule I missed about demolition. Your demolition agents, the guys with bombs, have to be a mech or battle armor. So battle armor can infiltrate and drop a bomb and try to get back out.
So one potential issue, I'm not sure on this, is it doesn't specify. It says battle armor do not need to spend this extra movement to drop a bomb, right? A mech has to spend 1 MP, and then a demolition team member with a bomb that ends its movement in the rear adjacent hex of a bunker may drop that bomb. So my question here is, since battle armor can carry bombs, can they leave a transport and drop the bomb the turn that they leave the transport, or do they need to do it under their own movement?
They cannot, because they cannot take an action after being dropped off.
Okay, good. That's what I hoped, because otherwise that's a huge loophole.
Yeah.
Yes.
So because battle armor who are dropped off from a transport, they can't attack, they can't move, they can't essentially take an action. They cannot do that. Now, in Alpha Strike, where they can shoot and move after being dropped off, they could leave the bomb. Yeah, in Alpha...
There's also no stacking in Alpha Strike, so if you are setting yourself up to do that, that's on you.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there as the resident Alpha Strike player.
Yeah. They're more likely to die. So, from demolition, we'll move on to point control, which is kind of a semi-standard format because there are 6 objective hex markers, 3 on each side of the map, that you win by claiming a certain number of them, right? If any player controls 2 or more hex markers on each of the 2 maps, so you're not claiming, you're trying to fight for 2 on each map, not necessarily just 4 overall, which creates a sort of like a more dynamic situation where you have to enter the other map and try to claim it. So if you just claim the 3 on your side, you still have to claim 1 on the other side and engage with your opponent. And it creates a nice tug of war back and forth. Now, I have not played this all that much since we redeveloped it and did some play tests of it. I've just never rolled it. You guys might have played this more than me. What are your thoughts?
I personally like the changes we did with making it makes it feel mechanically different, because it gives you like the option to tactically like give up a point. And a lot of the times the game ends up coming down to 2 units running back and forth between 2 points, trying to make sure the other one can't cap them both, is what most of my games end up turning into with that.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of match your opponent's speed.
I like this one a lot, again, because I am the sort of person where my kind of default mode of play is I like playing fire support tanks and then fast cavalry and beater mechs. And this is a game mode that rewards you for having a lot of board presence, which that kind of playstyle tends to enjoy. This kind of game mode, it like kind of rewards that playstyle fairly heavily. But also, yeah, I think like of the matches I've played this on, I think even when it is kind of obvious when someone is going to win, a lot of the games I have played of this, like your opponent can really make you fight for it if they have the will to. I had a really great match a couple of months ago against one of our local mercenaries players where the game ended with me burning one of his battle armor. He had some kobolds holding a point, and I had to burn them out from under him while I was taking fire from a Kodiak, and that was such a good game. So yeah, this is one I have very much enjoyed.
Okay, I am pretty excited to play Point Control as well. This is one of the ones that I was more focused on, or not really more focused on, but this kind of style of objective, since my force is an extension of my BTCC tournament force, right? It's designed to win scenarios like this, where actually if my opponent misplays turn 1, I can win at turn 1.
Oh, you mean like a certain other individual was doing on the original iteration of this list?
No, it's not quite that bad, but yeah.
Oh,
turn 1 VTOL drops?
Yes.
we play Combined Arms, and that creates...
You guys down there did.
Yes.
Combined Arms, I'm a big fan of in general as a concept because it allows more tools and more options. Clan have access to battle armor and vehicles that can really give them more tools that are usable outside of their sort of generally more expensive mechs. And Inner Sphere has access to a lot of cheap, weird stuff that they can throw out there. It creates interesting and dynamic gameplay, but it also creates areas that can be abused. The first time people brought VTOLs, we hadn't sort of adjusted the way you could claim objective hex markers, your objective hexes, and VTOLs could just zoop forward and immediately grab them. We have tried to change it so that they can only do it on the hex, they have to be grounded, the way they're deployed kind of changes things so that there's a predictability and pattern. You can't just sort of like zoop, run ahead, hide behind a hill so no one can shoot you and claim the objective, Luke.
I'm sorry, listen, I brought that helicopter as a spotter, and then I just kind of spent the entire season like having the Oppenheimer Lifetime Achievement Award delivered to my house as I continued to roll point control.
Yeah, you kicked my butt one day, and it's just because I knew better. I'm just like, oh, he's not going to do this to me, and I just like was in the, oh, it's the friendly beginning of the match, we're having fun here, blah 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 blah, and then you were just like just zoom competitive mode. It's like, I'm gonna win now, bloop, and I'm just like, I knew that was a thing. Why did I not play? If I'd moved my Cougar just like one hex backwards.
Oh, this wasn't even point control. This was the assault one where you just have to cap at once for the 2VP.
Oh yeah, that we got rid of that guy.
That one was problematic for that reason. But yeah, I think Zess, you identify like a good point. Like if you bring a lot of battle armor and you bring fast stuff, like turns out dropping paratroops very powerful if you need to control ground and you don't care about what happens to those troops.
right? That's kind of like where Axel was a bit surprised in our last game when I had a unit of salamanders, a point of salamanders, holding off 3 mechs from a single point. Doing what they do, you know?
Yes. Yeah, because you don't want to get close to Sally's. They're,
All right, so the next scenario to talk about is Raise the Flag. Garner, you came up with this one if you want to talk about it.
So I kind of came up with it. I converted it to BattleTech. I'd seen iterations of this from my time playing competitive Warhammer, especially in the more recent editions when it was primarily a secondary mission to do, where you had to have units sitting on a point for an extended period of time to slowly gain victory points throughout the game. What makes it different from point control or something like that is that there's only 2 objectives. The one that you have to try and maintain control over is just over the map edge into your opponent's map. And conversely, the one that your opponent's trying to get is 4X's into your map. And the point of the thing is that you're trying to kind of call somebody out and like show like, hey, I'm in your territory and you're not doing anything about it. The BattleTech version that I wrote the rules for, the same unit does not have to hold the objective. But the side does have to maintain control. For each turn that you don't control it, it goes down in points value. And at the end of any turn that you have control of it, you can either raise the points value that it's worth or expend all of the charges that you've kind of built up on the hill, or not on the hill, on the point, to gain that many victory points. And then you have to go back to start accruing. So you can't just like one turn hold and turn in at the same time. You have to hold it for an entire game round to even get 1 victory point. But say you hold it for 1 and turn it in, your opponent holds it for 2, and you can't knock him off on turn 3, then he's got 2 points to your 1, and then you're trying to play catch up. So it's kind of psych your opponent out and, do the Princess Bride mechanic to Nicholas, as was previously discussed.
That was largely the artillery.
I think it did both. When you send 7,000 BV after a Nova B, I think it did its job.
It's just a little guy.
This is one I have never played before, but just in terms of play patterns, I think it looks interesting, not the least because the points are, I'm trying to count in my head here and I can't. The points are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 away from each other, which means you can credibly hold your, the point you need to do, but are basically not able to kind of effectively interact with the other point. So this is another one where Zess was talking about like force splitting. It's a tighter force split, but you still need to do a force split between the 2 points to defend the point your opponent is trying to score on, as well as attack the point that you are trying to score on. And I think it'll lead to a mosh pit in the center of the board, but I think it's a pretty interesting mosh pit.
It's a mosh pit, but you're still not trying to King of the Hill. Basically, it's more like you're trying to fight on 2 different hills, but you can't score one of them, and your opponent can't score the other.
Yes.
So it's playing both denial and accrual at the same time, which is something I like.
Yes.
And the final scenario to talk about here is Supply Raid, which I think was largely my construction.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Supply Raid is a lot of people's favorite, and I'm very happy with it. You deploy along the longest edge of the 2 maps, and along those edges, near them, each player has 6, essentially, supply depots, 6 objective hex markers. Before the game starts, players choose 2 of them, and those are decoys. The goal is to run forward and claim the supply depot, but not claim a decoy. Because if you claim a decoy, it explodes. And so it ends up being kind of a mind game of, do you defend the decoy to try to bait them in? What do you do here? Do you contest and so on? It's very much this one really rewards fast movers, but at the same time, if you have a too light of a fast guy charge forward and claim objective, they might die because the objectives explode as a hit from thumper artillery.
Sniper, I thought.
Sniper artillery, thank you.
What's really funny about it is when people try to claim it with battle armor. I do little dances.
Yeah, because it affects all of the battle armor gets hit by the sniper damage individually. And
Yes.
So battle armor tends to vaporize pretty quickly if they try and take a decoy by accident.
Yeah, because it's area of effect.
But there is a cool mechanic that we added to make that 15 BV 1 crit slot usable.
Oh yeah, active probes can detect if it's a decoy or not. It's a little bit different than the TAC Ops active probe because it detects mines and you have to roll yada. It's part of the optional rules by default in the format. But if you end your movement and your active probe is in range of a bunker, you get to roll on a 7-up. You know if it's a decoy or not.
Yay, 15 BV well spent.
Yeah, it means, listen, Menshen stocks are up, and I love that for my Capellans.
Basic mongoose stocks.
Mhm.
Skyrocketing.
Yes.
Now, Zess, you actually got to play this one. What did you think?
It was fun. I expected this to be a lot of fun. And as we talked about, because you were there when we started the game, I love mind games. And this is the objective that has mind games built in because you have 6 locations and only 4 of them are real. And so it comes down to, obviously, because this one covers so much of the map, right? There's 12 locations on the map that are vying for your attention. You're going to be splitting your forces. If you're not splitting forces here, you're probably making a mistake. And it is going to lead to a very interesting game state from the beginning, of trying to determine where you think your opponent's going to move based on where the maps have been set up and how the token gameplay went of altering terrain. And trying to think, okay, where are their decoys? Where are my decoys going to be? How can I convince them that these are real and not my decoys? Or make them worried that my real ones are decoys and control my opponent through that, right? And so it has the potential to have a lot of very fun moments. And sure enough, our game had a ton of fun. I did correctly identify one of his, and I captured it with a skimmer on turn 1. But his reaction to that made me think that my original thought of which were his decoys, which were the ones that run flat and not on hills, that one of them actually was not a decoy and was real, and I blew up a skimmer on it next turn by accident. So, oops.
Mind games.
I love sticking my archer right by it, and then oh, you're sending something to come leg attack me or whatever. No, it dies too. I pop my own. I force you to accidentally trigger my bomb.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think this is one which is also the kind of how sweaty your opponent is, for lack of a better word. You kind of start to realize when you play this one, because you end up with the scenario of, if you try and play mind games against someone who just wants to show up and throw dice, then oftentimes they will kind of make choices where you're trying to do something very, very kind of elaborate, and then they just make a seemingly irrational choice because that's what they wanted to do. It's not just about kind of second intentions, but also kind of who is your opponent for this oftentimes, because I know I have gotten burned by that, of trying to do very, very kind of technical politic things against a player who is just very socially unaware.
Now, Zess mentioned something in talking about Supply Raid, which is a often forgotten thing about maps in Iliad, is that we allow tokens that alter the map. So each player, as part of the map phase, so before the game begins, has a light woods, a clear, and a rough terrain token that they can place on the map and kind of alter the way players act. They can get rid of, they can turn a heavy woods into a light woods and a light woods into clear. They can try to eliminate sort of light woods behind hills to provide, to remove that sort of woods and partial cover bonus. They can try to block paths so that it's more difficult to get to objectives. It can be a really important part of gameplay, particularly depending on the scenario.
It's a pretty cool part of the Iliad, I think. The map phase is very important, obviously, as any experienced player is going to realize. And then the token phase brings in an entirely new layer to that, where there's now a lot of things you need to think about with the map sheets that you place. Because if you're looking at a fulcrum point on a specific map sheet you use that is requiring, let's say, that heavy woods that's going to get you partial cover or something, and your opponent identifies it and reduces it down to rough, you might now have to rethink your entire strategy of how you're using that map. So
actually, one of my first fixes to Iliad before I was really fully brought on as part of it was to say that the map tokens should go to the person that lost the map.
This is something I think we should touch on. Is one of the biggest changes that we've had to make over the course of this is how fucking strong the map phase started out as. Because it was originally, Nicholas mentioned, we just ripped off the rules from Wolfnet, and the Wolfnet rules are: one player places terrain last, one player wins initiative on turn 1, which maybe that works in Alpha Strike, but it
doesn't.
In Classic, what it ends up turning into, well, not in this is they're playing on 3D boards with say 10 pieces of terrain. So maybe one piece of terrain versus initiative turn 1 means something. But in this case, it turned into, oh, you can either pick maps and win the game because you kind of you basically control what your opponent's deployment zone looks like, because you get to choose what side of your opponent's map your map connects to, or you can lose the game because you win initiative on a turn, which is irrelevant in 90% of classic BattleTech games.
Oh yeah.
Unless you're doing something very squirrely with paratroopers. So we've kind of continuously had to find ways to depower the person who is allowed to pick maps, and that started with us allowing the kind of person who doesn't pick maps to choose any one turn of the game that they can win initiative on. The terrain tokens were part of that, because there were so many missions where someone got rinsed because they had to fight into heavy woods in partial cover elevated position, which just mulched them. And we were we need to put terrain tokens in, and then eventually, like Garner said, we let the person who gets foresight token to win initiative later in the game also is the last one to drop down a terrain alteration, because that lets them kind of have the last say on what kind of nasty nonsense gets put on the map.
The way I try to describe it to the players these days is you either choose map advantage or token advantage. You place your map second, or you get the foresight token, which that's the token that lets you win initiative on the following turn when you use it, and you place your token second, which lets you react to whatever your opponent is doing. So if they add a light woods behind a hill, you can be no, clear that, rough that, no, bad.
And at the end, you can be you didn't think I was going to let you keep that heavy there, did you?
Oh, see, I do it the other way. I'm oh, this is the fastest route to the hill? Okay, you block mine? Sure, whatever, I don't care. You're going to trip and fall on this tree that's right in front of you.
Yes, that's true. I guess here's a question for all of us is there a scenario where you would pick either? Because I know I have an answer to this question.
What do you mean?
I tend to play lists which heavily benefit from terrain advantage. So if you play against me and I win kind of the start of game roll, I am almost always going to want to pick the map second. But I have tinkered with some lists that are more based around pivotal turns, and in that case being able to just say I know what the next turn looks like if I win initiative. I am just windmill slamming that. I need that token to windmill slam at you. Becomes a lot more important.
For me, the lists I play right now, it's really situational. There are definitely times, and also largely based off a deployment zone, where I would rather take the initiative token. Particularly if I'm playing, right now I have a heavy melee list. Normally I play a very fast moving list. And so if there's a time where I need to win initiative to, I know there's going to be times with my fast moving list that I want to win initiative because I want to be able to see where they move and react to it to sort of move them off position to claim the objective. And I guess also it really depends on who am I playing against. So if I'm playing a Steiner Wall of Steel, if I know I'm up against a bunch of Gauss rifles or something, I'm going to be like, I want map. I want to see where your map is. But if I'm playing against another person, I'm just like, oh, I already know you're going to be picking the double crescent. I already kind of know what map you want. I'll take the token. I'm going to manipulate it, like.
So I take the initiative token to deny my opponents it if I think that their list needs it.
Okay.
Example, when I play against you, Nicholas, when you're playing your Luchadors. I do not let you choose a turn to get a grillion damage charge.
That's true. That's fair.
I do not allow that. That is banned. Jail.
Perfect example.
Having played Nicholas, I also took the token away from him so he wouldn't be able to get his hatchets in the range properly.
Oh,
exactly. The only times that when given the option to either have initiative or that, is either A, I'm playing a heavy melee list and my opponent is playing something that can't really do anything about it against like King of the Hill. That's the only time that I've willingly chose it for my benefit. Or for purely my benefit. Otherwise, I am choosing that initiative token to deny it to my opponent.
Yeah, Zess, I'm excited to talk about our game because I had forgotten that I lost initiative 6 turns in a row.
Well, 4 turns and then a 5th because I used the token.
Well, I know I had to lose it. I had to lose it on one turn to get the +1. I got up to a +5, didn't I?
Oh, no, actually, no. Sorry, that's what happened. It was you were up to a +4, and then you were looking at me, you're like, are you going to spend your token? And I looked at the dice, and I said, it would be funnier if I win it with a dice roll, because then I could use the token to force it to 6. And then you won the roll. I got too cheeky.
Yeah. Well, you still won initiative 5 turns in a row, but we'll get into that.
That sounds like my games.
So usually I win initiative maybe 3 times in a tournament game. I've used my opponent because there's no streak compensation in most other formats I play. So I am used to playing with no initiative, more or less.
Same.
I think the worst I've ever seen my initiative versus Princess get was up to a +7.
Woof.
Yeah, it gets pretty bad. So
I was the one that said, we need initiative compensation. We need something because this is ridiculous that I went 8 turns in a row without winning initiative.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm done. I am over this.
If the token's there, you could take a bad position and you could just bully your opponent in it. It's
This is when I was playing my all hatchets and or TSM list.
Oh no, my condolences.
We didn't actually go into many of the sort of extra rules and meta things that are applied to Iliad. There's initiative compensation, so if you lose initiative, you get a +1 to your initiative roll the next turn. That was Garner. There is Commander's Edge, so that you have 1 point of edge that can be used to defensively cause a reroll for any unit on your force. That was put in by Garner.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not trying to balance anything. And actually, Commander's Edge was not me. I suggested there needed to be something to interact with losing a mech to a turn 1 headshot from a clan ER PPC.
Yeah, you got clapped too. I was the one who came up with just like, why don't we do it in salvage? Why don't we do it here?
Yeah, you were the one that said for like any defense thing. I specifically said for the first 3 turns, if something would take a head from 100 to 0, it does half damage or something like that. I was trying to find. Or not half damage. It does everything. It does the amount of armor plus 1 internal, and you get a crit roll. As opposed to that's what it was.
Rare L Garner take, but
it is. I have some rare ones, but that's when I was playing against, my one friend who brought 4 heavy PPCs and 2 Gauss rifles, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just fall over.
So I often credit my ability to read the map to Murph. Because Murph, when he started playing, every single game would bring 2 alicorns.
And it's just, where are you putting these assholes? Where are they going?
On top of hills. The man just liked his alicorns, all right? And so I learned to read the maps, and he would just look at the map and be like, can I not shoot at any of your mechs? And I'm like, no, you can't. And he's like, okay, I'm shooting your battle armor. Yeah, I need to kill 2 battle armor. That was games worth of games.
Oh no, that's
man.
fine. Like I do pick my maps to nuke fire lanes and stuff. Like that's not the thing. It's just
when you get got by it, you get got by it.
you just get got by it.
Yep.
And like example, like playing King of the Hill, my stalker was 1 move from getting into the hill, and then
Got clapped. Oh,
random like 10 to hit with a clan ERPPC from Nicholas hits, spikes the 12, and I just lose.
It's always that.
yes.
And, like,
And that's how we have Edge.
I wish so many other competitive formats had Edge, because it doesn't nullify, but it curbs the excess of the long tails of the probabilities, right? Almost every single BTC I've played in, half of my matches have either had one of my mechs be crippled, and there's forced withdrawal in BTCC, or die in the first like 3 turns. I had, again, it's always on those 11 up hits, right? My first BTCC, my first match, my Direwolf had its right shoulder fused because of an 11 up LRM 5 tacking it.
Oh, it's the small guns too. I had one of my earliest games of BattleTech. I had a Shadowhawk tack a Timberwolf off the board with the AC5 turn 2. It's beautiful to do to someone. It's horrible to have happen. To your point, Zess, so this was something that I talked about kind of extensively as kind of the ethos of BattleTech and kind of the ways the game could be better. A lot of that is BattleTech is a lot about managing the death spiral, the long ends of the probability, turn the death spiral into a death hole, and having an E-stop button that you can just slam if you drop into that hole a little early in the game is really nice for just kind of normalizing how things go.
Yep. And then but then there's like some people, like a lot of people forget about Edge, about the Commander's Edge. Then there's people like me who throughout my entire game with Nicholas is like, do you want to use your Edge on this? Nope. My Nova is fine being passed out on the ground. Are you sure? Are you sure? Yes. And then I ended up using it to stand my Gargoyle up and vomit onto his Black Lantern.
Yep. Sounds about right.
All right. Well, we have so much more we could talk about. Final thoughts on Iliad before we try to get in games played.
I guess I can kind of go in on a TLDR here. Obviously, I've only played 2 matches in Iliad, but obviously I've played a lot of different formats at this point over the last few years, since I've been really heavily focusing into BattleTech tournaments, right? Iliad is definitely the best crafted system that I've played so far, between BTCC, the Open, Bloodright, all that kind of stuff, right? There's a lot more thought into the objectives and making sure they're not as exploitable. I mean, obviously you guys exploited them to find out that, hey, we need to fix this, right? But you can see the progressive solutions that have come from that have made it so it's difficult to break all of the objectives with a single force, at least. I think there's a couple that I might have a force that will be really strong at, but we'll have to see once I get more games in. But I really, really like the objective set that you have. The 6 objectives are pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of VIP because it's kind of just kill with extra steps. But the other 5, I'm a massive fan of.
Ultimately, in BattleTech, in this kind of game of giant robots that fight and kill each other, we kind of need a scenario that rewards the I am Mr. Killy, upfront kill you. VIP Clash right now is, I think, a good way to make that into a reasonable scenario that kind of rewards interesting gameplay. But if I had to choose a scenario right now that's sitting on the chopping block or the closest to the chopping block, it would probably be VIP Clash. If something fighty killy came up that had more satisfying gameplay, I'd replace it. But as for right now, I'm pretty happy with the stuff we have. My philosophy going through is to try to not to say no to things, but try to accommodate things. There's a story real quick from when I played a lot of D&D as a dungeon master. One of my players surprised me with the spell Baleful Polymorph. This is D&D 3.5. It's practically an instant kill spell, and in 3.5, the vast majority of instant kill spells have 2 checks, right? And they're different, right? You have ones that, challenge your will and challenge your fortitude. One that you have to actually hit with, and then it challenges your fortitude, right? There's 2 things that if you use the spell, you use the ability, the unit has to fail 2 things before it dies. This one, Baleful Polymorph, had 1. And then essentially it turns your opponent into a chicken, right? And the druid in my party used this spell, and there was this really interesting encounter that was expecting to last a lot longer, and he just used Baleful Polymorph early on in the fight. It destroyed all tension. It rendered this big, interesting monstrosity they set up into a chicken, and I'm like, what the hell do I do? Because this guy has this spell. It's not like this is the only time I can use it. And online I read about it, and what people did, they banned the spell. A lot of people just banned the spell, or they did this, they did that. And I thought, I don't want to ban the spell. This is an interesting thing. I don't want to tell my players no. So when we came into next session, what I told them was, I read the spell and I said, Baleful Polymorph turns this thing into a chicken. So you didn't kill this scary enemy monster, you killed a chicken. You are awarded no experience and you find no items. And what that did is it told the players that you can use this, but there's a consequence. This is not you use it in the beginning of the fight and you just win the fight now because you killed an enemy. This is, we are about to lose. We are about to die. We are now on edge because you have this one spell to possibly save our life. And it changes it from there's no tension because you just instantly kill the boss in the beginning to, oh my gosh, there's all this tension in the end because we're about to die and this might save our butts. And that, I think, for me, is a good example of a philosophy of you can find a way to not say no to players, not say no to people, not ban VTOLs and not restrict things, but
the helicopters.
Change the way they're used, that they're restricted, that there's consequences, that they match sort of expectations of play. And I feel like that shows in the way Iliad has turned out, and in a lot of ways. So that is kind of my philosophy going forward. It's like, I don't want to tell people no, but I might be like, hey, if you do this, this is what happens.
I appreciate your thoughts on the objectives, Zess. We've it's been a road of every once in a while someone comes up with something wacky and we have to go, oh god, how are we going to make this functional but not evil?
Right, and that's what continuous improvement is for, right? That you take the lash and go, oops, we should have seen that coming, and then you fix it.
Yes.
There have been small changes just about every season. I know we're already into where I would normally start accepting submissions for the next season. I haven't announced some of the changes that we've talked about and planned just because of everything going on. FlagCon's about to start, so my goal is going to be, I'll announce there's some small changes that'll happen, which is essentially, thanks to you, Zess, there's going to be there's sort of, we talked about in the previous episode, the expectation of regularity, right? People play BattleTech and they expect to play against mechs, not 8 units of non-mechs and 2 mechs.
Not mech singular.
Yeah, so the change is going to be that you have to have an equal number of mechs and non-mechs. That's the big change.
Clarify. You must have at least an equal number of mechs.
At least an equal net, yes.
So no more Zess having 2 mechs, 4 Vs, and 4 battle armor platoons. Got it.
And I think to your point about never winning initiative in tournaments, Zess, that, turns out when you can sandbag initiative a lot of the time and just kind of save your pivotal units to nearly the end, and that's almost as good.
There was a reason why I build my list the way I do.
That's actually the whole thing of for what I'm bringing to the Alpha Strike competition at Southern Assault. It is 4 mechs, 8 vehicles, and 2 units of infantry.
Damn straight.
And I feel like a disgusting individual.
I'm going to try to keep changes light for next season. Like I said, that's the only one immediately planned, and try to focus on the 2026 Iliad and making it a format that can last more than one season, expectation of it lasting unless a major flaw, a major issue comes up, playing on this one, possibly lasting the whole year, possibly lasting at least 3 seasons, and leave it untouched, because that is the goal, to have it not change as often as it does. So now, Luke, you are about to hit your cutoff. Do you have a gameplay that you would like to talk about before you have to say goodbye?
Oh God! So here's the thing: is I was planning on having games played, and then those games did not get played because by alarm. I'll stick around and be kind of a passive listener, but I need to go into working on a little bit of work for tomorrow.
Fight me.
So, Zess, I plan on talking about our game.
Uh-oh.
So unless we have an objection here, I think we could go first, because it is a double conversation.
So obviously my first match of Iliad, right? You challenged and said, hey, if your first match of Iliad, I feel like you should face me. And I'm like, bargained well and done, right? So
felt like a great way to sort of like welcome you into the format. Let me pull up my list, because I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Weren't you running the Luchadors? Or no, you weren't. You're running.
No.
I forgot. I forced you to play Inner Sphere this round.
You did? Yeah. So I think I might have mentioned that I am playing Inner Sphere, Rasselhog Republic in the Civil War, specifically because Garner made a deal with me that he'd play Clan and I'd play Inner Sphere. My list, it actually has kind of a few little subdivisions. The one I didn't actually play with against Zess is I actually did a small C3 force of a Daimo, Panther, and Firestarter. I did get to use them in one game already. I was really happy with the way they engaged with my opponent and played around with ranges, but I knew against Zess's list, particularly because we ended up playing VIP Clash, that unit that sort of moves forward to claim objectives, probably not going to be that useful.
why is that?
Oh, yeah. Well, you could talk about your list and why I wasn't going to do that in just a second here. So I had, well, you know what? Even before that, I want to say, Zess, we had a great game. And we spent probably as much time just talking, just shooting the back and forth, we spent as much time doing that as we did actually playing the game, to the point where by the end my brain was smush.
It's impressive that he didn't get there beforehand.
Yeah, we did take quite a relaxed style to it of just chatting a lot of the time.
Oh yeah. Despite the relaxed nature of it, like at least for the first half of it, it was very intense.
Oh, yes.
Like I always get the feeling like when I play against someone and I find it like there's this sense of like, oh, you know what you're doing. Let me amp it up. Let me sort of match your tone. It's the same feeling I get versus Luke and Garner, which is like, oh, and Forrest. The problem with Forrest being you don't walk into it expecting that, and you're like, oh,
Yeah, because every time you play Forrest, it's just like, oh, he's such a chill dude, and then halfway through you're like, oh, I see what he's doing.
right? You're just like, wait, why did he move there? It's like, oh, he's planning to do this, and like he's baiting me with that, and you're like, okay, no, we gotta actually think, we gotta turn the brain on. And so turning my brain on versus your list is like, no, C3 is not doing it. We're bringing the Urban Mech, the UMR69 as a distraction, the Berserker as sort of like our main play piece, the Venom SDR-9K, this little guy with some medium pulse lasers to sort of try to be an engage and a distraction, Hatchetman, and Black Knight. And it's like, okay, if these are the units I'm going to bring, because I also had to pick VIPs here. If I'm going to bring a VIP, it's got to be the Berserker and the Black Knight. You know, my two biggest, most durable units to deal with the chaos that is your list, if you want to talk about that.
So yeah, my list is, as I said, a bit of an extension of my BTCC style. So I figured going into Iliad for the first time, I might as well just... Well, you also told me poke some holes in it, I believe was the word that you used when we were talking outside Cantrip that one night. And I said, how hard do you want me to go? He said, try and poke some holes in it. So I was like, let's see how it holds up against my style that I use in Championship Circuit, right? And so my Championship Circuit list for all three BTCCs has been pretty much the same thing. It's been a Direwolf E supported by a Timberwolf T, and then with a mix of skimmers and battle armor supporting it. And the battle armors have changed from being elemental 3s to being Callistos, and different mixes of having 3 or 2 skimmers. But pretty much the same thing going through. So this time going in, I decided instead of having 4/4 skill mechs, I wanted to have 3/4 skill mechs, and then use most of that sideboard that you get with Iliad to mix up the infantry as much as I want, and then possibly have a Balak instead. So this list got a little bit disgusting, because as you said, it only has the 2 mechs in it. But we have a Direwolf E with Gunnery 3, Piloting 4, so coming in at battle value 3,714.
Possibly the biggest unit, the biggest BV unit we've seen yet in Iliad.
And worth every penny.
It's more than the reserve points you get, so if you don't take it, you are always deploying less than 7,000 points by a pretty wide margin, so you're basically forced to.
And that's kind of, I would say your list is pretty strong, but that might be, despite the fact that that Direwolf is very strong, everyone just knows you're going to be bringing it.
Right, and I also declared that at the beginning. So, I mean, as I said, I won the Bloodright in honor of Jamie Mechwarrior. The Direwolf E is canonically Jamie Mechwarrier's mech. So, because I've had him piloting it through the championship circuits, and now I'm just kind of injecting that into the canon of that I want that to be his mech. To just kind of honor him, right? And so I'm like, I'm gonna bring Jamie to Iliad and let him run amok a little bit one last time before I shelve the E for a little bit. So obviously, yes, as you said, the centerpiece of the force, right? The Direwolf E is the anchor, and it's in every single configuration of the force that I have because of its BV cost and because of the theme. So it is both metaphorically an anchor as well as being functionally an anchor on the field. It is meant to dominate basically a 12 hex region around itself because it has 8 clan medium pulse lasers backed up by 2 LB10s and 1 streak LRM 10. So that creates a basically death zone within 12 hexes of this mech, which is why you were not wanting to take light mechs that need to spot within that 12 hex exclusion zone, basically. The second option I have, so the second and only other mech in the force, is a Madcat 3 version 2. This is also a 4/3 skill. So that comes in at BV 2,240. So that is the medium version of the Timberwolf / Madcat series. And that has also a bevy of pulse lasers. It's got 2 medium pulse, 6 micro pulse, and then 4 SRM 6 with Artemis 5. So a pretty hellish battery on that mech. In fact, I think against my last match against Axel, I think it hit a mech for 64 damage in a round on the last turn and just utterly ripped an assassin to pieces.
Ooh, that's a bad position to be in as an assassin.
Or Vulcan, sorry.
Oh, that's even worse. That's even worse. Was there a Vulcan left? Was it just like a pair of smoking boots?
So the Vulcan survived, barely, fell, survived the fall, barely, had literally 2 structure left on the CT. It had, I think, no arms, only 1 side torso left, 1 leg is on. And it was able to claim the objective, which of course was a decoy, and it blew itself up on the decoy.
That Vulcan lived long, but it did not prosper.
This is why we play BattleTech. That's perfect comedy.
So, yeah, when he was wondering why I didn't contest the objective, there was a very good reason why I didn't. So that is the second mech. It can be rotated out sometimes. I cannot take all 3 of these at once because there's too many points. But if I do not want to take the Madcat 3, I have a Balak Strike VTOL that I can take instead, which is a 25-ton hell on wheels. Actually, Luke faced it the one time I used it.
I've fought the Balak before, and I've fought it a couple of times in Megamech. I tried fighting your list with my Merrick list, actually. I gave Princess your list, and Princess is very good at replicating your kind of strategy of avoiding fire lanes. Pretty much every time I played it, I was like, okay, I need to have a flak thing, and I need to kill the Balak before I can engage anything else, because the Balak is going to get in something's rear, and it's going to be something expensive, and I'm going to lose something quickly.
Right, because it is a very efficient little 25-ton piece of metal. I mean, it's 1 medium laser and 2 ATM6s. So if you load HE, it can do a lot of damage. In the game that Luke and I played, you did have that, what was it, Menchen within LB10?
I did. I should have brought the one with the LB2s.
Probably. I mean, you had no way to know.
It was way cheap. My original list actually had it in, and then I was like, nah, I want to bring the nice one. And then I just missed every shot into it.
I never gave you a shot with the LB10.
Yeah.
So you only had shots with the PPCs and stuff in the rear.
Yeah.
Going on, so as we talked about before, I have 4 vehicles. So the other one is a heavy hover APC, which is because I have 4 units of battle armor. So if I want something to move them around, the heavy hover APCs there is a cheap option to move stuff while also being able to do objectives and beat padding. And then possibly the most important things in the list are 2 skimmers, which are 5-ton, basically stripped down Savannah Masters that have a small laser and a flamer. The flamer's in the rear, also, by the way. That are just basically there to be 26 hex cruise vehicles that are meant to contest objectives or get in the way and block enemy forces while also being padding. And I take them at a piloting 3 and a gunnery of 5. So their skid checks, they only fail on a snake eye, which, trust me, I do fail those pretty frequently somehow.
As a mask enjoyer, I feel that.
Yep. And then the infantry. So I have 4 squads of battle armor. One is Callistos, which are basically elementals that cannot jump. They can run 3. They have ER micro lasers, and they have 1 squad carried ER medium laser. I have 2 squads of salamanders, which are just 2 flamers and a Inferno SRM. And there's a difference between them in that one of them's anti-mech 3, the other one's anti-mech 4. So that way I have some granularity in being able to change different lists. And then I've got Corona Battle Armor, which is a heavy battle armor that has a clan medium pulse laser on the suit, which is a pretty obnoxious suit to bring, but I have not brought it yet. And that's the list.
So like I said, going into this, seeing that just the barrage of medium pulse lasers, I was just like, okay, that's called it. I'm not bringing my C3 list that has to operate and move forward, particularly because this is VIP Clash, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think VIP Clash might be your strongest scenario.
I'm not sure, because since it's a straight battle objective, an opponent that has a more efficient list of like having more kind of standard armor, like my list is only 214 tons, right? And I'm only going to be able to bring like 150 some tons of that most of the time, 170 if you include like the battle armor and stuff. So my force is very, very light, and in a straight-up battle, I have to be very, very careful of how I deliberately engage the enemy in order to destroy them piecemeal and not get overwhelmed. Because if somebody just gets 6 mechs and gets them straight in my face, while the direwolf is going to kill things, it can also be ground down relatively quickly if somebody focuses fire into it. And the rest of my list is not going to win on its own if it doesn't do enough damage.
The catch with that, though, is in VIP Clash, your opponent's 2 highest BV mechs are also VIPs, and if they charge in, you have obvious targets to engage with and target down first, 4 points, and if you get that, it's easier to sort of retreat and sort of mess around and engage. So the moment you kill one of their VIPs, you can operate in a defensive stance and not to engage as much. I think with your vehicles and other things you have, you can, I hate to say delay the game, but you can at least extend the engagement out enough and operate in a fighting retreat that that sort of swarm forward, I think, is less of a concern, because the game has to end at some point, and the direwolf is going to be able to just shoot down something that comes within 12 hexes of it. So,
well, if it doesn't miss an urban mech on 7s with all but 1 pulse laser.
Urban mech did urban mech things and survived longer than it should have. But knowing this, another thing is looking at your list, right? You have the direwolf, which has a range of 12. My list is basically just a whole bunch of inner-sphere pulse lasers and PPCs. And I knew that, okay, I even asked Luke and Garner's, like, hey, I have so much inner-sphere pulse. Is this bad sportsmanship to bring this much? And they're just like, it's inner-sphere pulse.
It's fine.
You're not Kleiner. Don't worry about it. And so
I have opinions about this, because last year's FlagCon was me running a train on like 5 different people, because I brought a detachment which had a Venom, a Spider, and a Wraith in it that were less than 3,500, and I could just kind of drop hammers on people as I pleased. So there is a point, but I think that the bigger thing is, Inner Sphere Pulse requires you to close, and it requires you to put your own skin into the game.
Yes.
Yes, laughs in Sagittaire.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
And so I'm thinking it's like, I've got enough pulse that he's probably not going to bring the VTOL. The VTOL can be scary, but I have enough pulse and I have enough other things that like I could probably engage favorably with all of your smaller stuff. It's a VIP clash. I got to be worried about that direwolf and getting in a favorable engagement. And so I didn't bring my smaller guys, and we started off on a very hilly sort of map. I think we mostly played on the map I chose, right?
I think, yeah, because the one I put down, we mainly deployed on the one that you put down. I think only my Mad Cat 3 and your Venom went on the other map.
Like, my plan from the start is like, okay, I outrange your direwolf. If I can choose favorable engagements and use the terrain to sort of try to get closer to engage with, I have hatchets. I have 3 units with hatchets. I want to hatchet you. So what can I do to sort of not give you the advantage shooting at me as I reach you? And so that was my strategy going in. What was yours?
So my strategy was basically, I figured you were going to be intelligent enough to know that there's a 12 hex exclusion zone, right? And so that 13 hex is kind of what you need to play. And that's why I deployed my Mad Cat 3 off to the side and then put the direwolf up to an anchor location. Was to let the direwolf kind of get some shots at range, because I knew you wanted to close eventually, but it was a matter of can you wait long enough for that as well? Because my salamanders are also going to move up the board, and my Callistos are going to move to better positions in order to screen for the direwolf before it moves forward, right? And so I was going to wait and see if you made a mistake, because you do have the Venom, right, which is very dangerous in that it has 4 medium pulse lasers, but when it comes down to it, it is kind of just a spider, and if I can get it extended, I can also engage it. So I played my Mad Cat 3 out wide, which I think you initially thought might have been a mistake and that you could trap it, but it was set up in a way where I could bring it back into the pocket fast enough where it wouldn't really have enough focus getting into it.
Oh yeah, I saw you moving the Mad Cat 3 out, and I think it's like it gave me the opportunity to. It's like, okay, either this is going to be a mistake. There's a chance you move it in a bad position, I can catch it, and if I do, it's worth a VP. So I had to sort of engage it, knowing that like you're probably going to make it back, but if somehow, just heck, if I get 20 damage on it and it falls, that might be the way I sort of like move forward and engage it. So there was a chance. Ultimately, it came down to I was fighting you at range. You were engaging. We were kind of doing this back and forth, catching out of position. I lost initiative 4 or 5 times in a row. The direwolf being like, okay, the pulse lasers are dangerous, but you know what's also dangerous? LB tax.
Hello, baby.
And once you got a tack on my Black Knight in the leg when it was trying to dart between favorable positions, and you managed to get the tack while it was in the open. And just at 13 hexes, so you moved 1 hex forward, and suddenly that Black Knight was in the death zone and unable to really get up. And I, at that point, had to make a decision of what to do. Because my Black Knight was a VIP, you get the point. That might just be game over, because it might just come to 1-1. So
to even add in there, right, you also had to spend your edge at that point, because the attack originally went to your head, so you spent the edge in order to relocate it and went to leg, which is possibly worse.
It's one of the... maybe I should have waited for the actual crit roll, which is generally what I do with edge, but I just, like, I couldn't risk it on the head. Or
it's so risky, because like what if I roll 2 or get limb blown off or whatever, and you spend the edge and then I roll 2 again, right? That's what I've had happen in the past, and that's why I spend it when the attack lands, because otherwise it just goes through, in my experience.
And so that put me in the position of, what do I do? And this was also getting long. I think I got there like an hour and a half before you. This was like 6 o'clock. I'd been at the game store at least like 5-6 hours at this point, and it's like, okay, I can try to keep engaging with the direwolf favorably with long range, but the Black Knight is going to get caught out of position, or let's move forward. It's probably not a good move, but you know what? It is action. It is gameplay. It is no longer playing this sort of like back and forth, and it's like, you know what? If I get up close, maybe I'll get a hatchet hit. If I hit with a hatchet, great. that might be a kind of victory, or maybe I'll get lucky somewhere in this series of numbers. Thinking about Luke and his sort of like lucky knocking out of a Phoenix Hawk the other day. It's like, you know what? Let's do this. This is fun. This is engaging. Something's got to happen. And I definitely overcommitted. And your skimmers did what you want your skimmers to do.
It turns out they block optimal paths very, very well when they know the path you want to take.
Yep. So that Berserker, even though it has a supercharger mask, it was one of them. Like, it was running forward, and I was almost able to get in position to hatchet away the direwolf, but I don't remember if like it was winning initiative that was worse or not, or losing initiative that was worse, but you got your one remaining skimmer right in position to body block, and I couldn't charge for. I think I was actually going to try to charge, if I remember correctly, because you were in a straight line, and that would have been possibly damaging. But
yeah, and then because I brought the salamanders back to, the Callistos moved in front, and then the salamanders came back down a couple turns after that in order to cushion around the edge as well.
Yeah.
So
definitely a fantastic game. I kind of, that tack just, it's like, yep, that's it. We're going forward. It might not be a good idea, but this is just playing.
I think that might have been your core mistake, was choosing to go forward there, because once the Black Knight got tacked, right, I moved off the hill, and then the Black Knight was isolated and unable to fire at both my mechs. I feel like that really allowed me to isolate your Berserker and Hatchetman.
Oh, yeah. No, there was a point looking back where I moved forward and you switched fire away from the Black Knight, where my main objective of keeping the Black Knight alive and getting it to stand up succeeded. And at that point, I should have disengaged and changed my position and not ran forward, because you were moving things in a way that I should have noticed would have body blocked me and prevented sort of that continuing of gameplay. But I kind of at that point was like, I've been here too long. The game's got to end.
Hit me ball, baby.
Fuck it, we're going over the Berserker and trying to do Berserker things. You edged out with the win there, 2 objective points to none. I think I didn't actually even I don't remember if I had a move score or not, but it was really close. Like, it could have been anyone's game up until a certain point, and then it wasn't. But that's BattleTech. Do we have any more games played we'd like to talk about?
I've only got 2, so we can probably turn it over to Garner here.
I mean, so the only non-campaign-y game that I played was last week. I played a Alpha Strike practice game where my list is very brutal with sightlines, but also doesn't really care if there are sightlines, because I have 2 3055 upgrade LRM carriers. So even if they're not in C3 configuration, they still are in direct fire 4. So they just don't really care. One of the big things that differentiates like Alpha Strike from Classic in terms of like with how C3 works is that the C3 costs are baked into the mechs. So there's no real scaling per se. So that was one of my original reasons why I wanted to do a full company, was I could actually do a full company if I wanted. But I couldn't get the full company with also having upskilled mechs. So I had to go back to the drawing board, because if you already have the C3 costs baked into the value of the unit, now upskilling is disgustingly expensive. So in my list, everything is skill 4 except for my battle armor, which I have a unit of Cavalier 2s, and then a unit of just normal heavy infantry, which are the ones with the plasma rifles, so they can do some damage with that and some heat. And then all 4 of the mechs in the unit, in the force, are skill 3 as well. I've got a Templar, an Omni Blackjack, a Javelin, and a Locust to fill out the C3 Mech Lance, and then I've got a C3 Vehicle Lance that is a anti-aircraft partisan with company command, so it's got a double C3 master, so it can link to the Templars master and make everybody talk together. 2 LRM carrier 3055 upgrades, and then a Mantis scout helicopter, the ECM variant, which I find it really strange that the Alpha Strike version doesn't have 2 ECMs or like equivalent Angel ECM, because the unit itself actually does have 2 ECMs, but it does not show up in the Alpha Strike cards. And that's my little C3 force, and then otherwise I've got the double LBX-20 Demolisher, Clan LBX-20. It's the Clan retrofit of the Demolisher, and then a heavy hover transport for the infantry platoon, for the heavy infantry platoon, a Ripper transport for the, or Ripper infantry transport for the Cavalier 2s, and then a little ECM Savannah Master to go protect my C3 sightline. And turn 1, pretty much every turn of the game, I killed 2 to 3 of his units, of Chris's units in our playtest. And I lost maybe 1. Just because stand still C3 lists are very scary. Especially if half of them are skill 3 base.
So Zess, important note here, in Alpha Strike, when you stand still, you get a -1 to your 2-hit.
Actually, I didn't know that part.
It's the math effectively works out that your base skill for all units is effectively equivalent to gunnery skill 3.
So that ends up being that, yeah, so like my LRM carriers took down, because he had one C3 Lance being headed up by a gunslinger, and I killed it turn 1 because it silhouetted itself on a hill, and my LRM carriers needed 4s to hit.
That's disgusting.
I threw 10 dice on 4s to hit and took out all of its armor. The Omni Blackjack, that was the BJ20B. So its profile is short, medium, long of 2-3-3. So then again, that standing still, I needed 3s to hit. My partisan is 2-2-2, so it stood still for 4s to hit, and I just said, "You're gone now. Be gone, gunslinger," and just took out his master, and he did not have enough long-range firepower to kill my double master to take it out, and I just played the range bands to be 25 inches away from him with everything but like one of my C3 links, either my Javelin or my Locust, because the Mantis died turn 1 heroically to ensure that the Gunslinger died, to give me the short range bonus. And it went from there. It ended up being close on points just because I didn't move up fast enough, but from looking at the end state of the game, it did not appear so, because I think I still had 8 of my 14 units left to his none.
Oh, those are always weird games where it's like, well, we tied on points, but also I just kind of took a leaf blower to you at some point.
And so I was willing to sacrifice that because the way that because we played like old Southern Assault, like the old Southern Assault missions, I believe one of them, it was where it had 3 like objectives in the middle, and you got 1 point for holding at the end of every turn. So I made sure he only capped 1 a turn because I just had clear line of sight on 2 of them, and just anything that went near it died because you were in front of my LRM carriers, and then they told you to go away. So then I went to go play it, but he also had good coverage on those same 2 points to kind of stop me, because most of my force was rather light, or in terms of like for armor and structure combined. I ended up winning because I was just playing to the secondary points. Like I was playing the secondary game with, hey, if I get the primary, that's kind of a bonus. Like that's just kind of gravy.
Yeah, something to talk about at a certain point is, the way scoring is done and how much we like primary versus secondary objectives in various formats. But that's a long discussion for another day.
Yes. On paper, it looks close, but if you looked at the end, it was not that close.
And sometimes that can be risky depending on the scenario and the format. I think even in Iliad, I'd have to double check this because even I don't remember all the rules. I think the game ends when you wipe your opponent.
It does.
And
so the way that you can kind of get around that is just not kill his last unit to try and score points, which is cheesy and terrible. So that's why I said, like, we're just going to say that I killed you and just end this.
That'd be hilarious on a supply raid. If you're just like, oh, I killed everything, you've got one unit left, I'm not going to kill it, and they just ran forward and do a decoy.
Yep, that would be funny. I'd like that. But yeah, so that's really what it was. That was my one game. I've got another playtest with him coming up. Our lists are already locked in and submitted, so like it's not like we're changing. It's more to just get practice. Because again, like I said, I probably would have lost if I hadn't had such good target numbers and stuff, just because I didn't move up. I should have started moving up one turn sooner. But I also apparently can't read how C3 works. There's a really weird interaction with C3 in the rulebook where like the way it's worded isn't clear enough, where some people argue that you need line of sight between the units trying to talk to each other, and others say like direct, like actual line of sight. Or the way it's worded is that if ECM intercepts the line of sight or is blocked the line of, it covers one of the units or blocks line of sight, you don't get the benefits of C3. But because of that comma, some people argue one way that like you need line of sight between the spotter and the master to be able to transmit, and some people say that you need non-ECM direct line of sight. So there's some really weird stuff that people try to think, and I'm just like, so I like whenever I play against my opponents, I'm like, I don't really care what it is, just tell me what it is, so that way we're both on the same page.
That's a fair way to do it.
So you don't think that the 6 inches of forest makes all those trees stop this radio signal, or they do?
Not to get too much of a rabbit hole, but in Classic, you don't need line of sight even to the target, do you?
Correct.
For C3?
Correct.
Which I think that's bullshit.
I agree. But in Alpha Strike, you need line of sight to the target from the spotter and from the person using the targeting data to the target. The master technically doesn't need line of sight to the target unless the master's the one doing using the targeting data to shoot. But yeah, no, I don't know. I feel like C3 in Alpha Strike is seal clubbing, and I'm very upset at how effective it is. I have not had amazing success with C3 in Classic. But at the same point in time, or the same point, again, we're kind of getting very off topic, but that's the same concept of like people are petrified of semi-guided LRMs. I have never been able to make semi-guided LRMs work nearly as well as the general public seems to think that they work. And I've ran like Gunnery 2 tag spotters.
So the issue, you need to run multiple tags. I do think semi-guided is by far the strongest tech in the game, and this is the reason why it's parroted so much is because Word of Blake players and cons in narrative events drove their kill rate up to like 42-1 in mech kills by semi-guided.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
And there's a reason why semi-guided was banned. It was because it was making it impossible to like beat the Word of Blake players. I've talked to and gotten the signature of the guy that did it.
That and like precision ammo stuff. I'm just like, how are these the boogeyman?
Who's mad about precision ammo? I wanna study your brain about that one.
Well, just bring precision.
Precision.
What do you mean just bring precision?
Precision is a crutch. It's okay, but it's not. It's fine. It does what it needs to do. It doesn't do much more.
So yeah, C3 in Alpha Strike is a lot like C3 in Classic. I think there's a bit more nuance in Classic, where C3 is more usable on advanced levels with skill and counter ECM. In Alpha Strike, where it's hard costed in there, I feel my experience with it and my limited Alpha Strike is like, because it's hard costed in there, the C3 units are so BV inefficient often that you either have to make use of the C3, or somebody with a more optimized list could just brute force their way through.
Yep.
So this is why C3s really feels bad, right? Is because if it works, you just win. If it doesn't work, you lose. And it's kind of not fun to have a game come down to that coin toss. Because it's more of an equipment check sometimes than a list building check than... I feel like Alpha Strike dilutes a lot of the on-field skill down to probably just a few choice moves, whereas most of it's a list building game and then just making sure that you play your list a little bit better. Whereas Classic has a lot more minutia to it.
I disagree with that because I specifically try to pick mechs that are below the average that everybody says I need to have for like PV divided by medium range damage. If it's 1 or higher, it's a good unit. If it's not, deep 6 it and don't even think about bringing it. And then also I also believe in upskilling mechs, and everybody laughs at me for that too. So I mean,
right, but people are often wrong.
I mean, that just tells me some of their heuristics are incorrect.
Right, yeah.
That just tells me the list building heuristic is incorrect. That doesn't tell me that the game isn't about list building.
Well, I'm just saying that like these people that like this is the formula, this is how you do it. Like I had to break Chris of following that, and since I broke him of that, he's been doing better. But I'm saying that like you can outmaneuver people in Alpha Strike. I bring bad things, and the reason why I say it's list building is not as big as people like to make it is prime example. Nicholas's spreadsheet. Nicholas's spreadsheet has some crazy formulas and stuff to like determine the viability of mechs based on their survivability and their damage and whatever. And I bring suboptimal things and it still works.
Well, you use things like indirect fire.
Yes, I do. I use long range damage, which is very points inefficient.
Yeah, you use things that aren't quantified in the evaluation math. They're skill based and fantastic for you because.
Anyways, yeah.
In any case, we are running
way over.
Before we're coming to the end of the episode here, we've talked about games played. I think in the future episode we can go really more into depth about some of the rules that we've implemented in Iliad, which is sort of like the optional rules, the game rules, the meta rules, how things are constructed. I think today was a very nice sort of overall chit-chat back and forth. Are you guys excited for future leagues and the future of the Iliad?
I'm excited for arrow locking.
I'm excited to play more of it. Like I said, there's some objectives I really want to get the chance to try because they look very interesting, and I'm excited to see how they play out on a board. Obviously, you can mind sim it, but a lot of things are going to come up when you have an actual human against you instead of trying to think out scenarios in your brain. Obviously, the issue for me this season, as you guys know, has been trying to schedule matches as a result of me only getting 2 so far out of the 5. So
yeah, this has been an unusually slow season. I mean, there's some key players like Luke and Forrest who haven't participated for a variety of reasons. I've been having personal life issues.
I signed up and then have not had a chance to play a single match.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did notice that because you were one of my main list of trying to get an opponent for. So
yeah, no, I want to play. I just oh, by the way, I did pass my PE exam.
Yeah.
So that's
Congratulations.
Yeah, I do apologize. I've been absent between my job and between work for a couple of seasons, but I think for the holidays, when all of our college students, because I think we have a couple, go home, I will be back because I am a townie here in Ithaca despite going to school. And I do think one of the other things is one of the things I might be excited for going forward is we have talked a little bit about Megamech in the past and using Megamech to run Iliad games. I think it might be coming up with just like a protocol for that might make it easier for players like Zess to actually be part of the league. if you've got kind of a crap job and you're a little bit geographically isolated from a lot of the other players, I think having a way to make that part of the league is something that I can maybe try poking around with.
I would just need to actually learn how to Megamech. My brother's been hounding me to do it. I'm like, nah, dude, let's just play on Tabletop Sim. Whatever.
It's so good, but the learning experience is so frustrating.
I barely am able to use Megamech Lab to print out my sheets. I'm not technologically literate, apparently.
There's a little bit of curve, but once you kind of get used to it, I mean, it really is just the tabletop on a computer interface. The issue is sometimes if you miss a timing on something, You can't really just go back and be like, oh fuck, I forgot to switch my stealth armor on,
Yep.
which is something you could
There's
easily tell
no
your
undo
opponent,
button.
right? But you've already clicked the button. It's like, I didn't hit my stealth armor, which you would have just told your opponent, hey, my stealth armor's on in the end phase, right?
Or you forget to check the deploy anywhere button, and Princess deploys all of its units on top of you, and you're just like, I need to go reconfigure the whole game.
It's so many times.
That happens more than anything else. Oh my goodness.
So many goddamn times.
Listen, Megamech, we love you so much. We love all of the things that you can do. Please give us an undo button at least when we're playing the bot.
Well, as always, thank you for joining me, Luke and Garner, and a special thank you to Zess.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I will catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Odysseus Legion podcast. This podcast was created by the Odysseus Legion, a BattleTech club organizing play around central and western New York State. Rules for all of our formats, as well as a calendar of Odysseus Legion events, can be found on our website, odysseuslegion.com. Next month, November 7th through 9th, is the Finger Lakes Area Gaming Convention, aka FlagCon, where we have multiple BattleTech events scheduled, including 2 salvage free-for-alls and a BattleTech worldwide event, featuring the battle between the newly crowned Ill Clan and Compellan forces. For more information, visit flagconithica.com. All music and audio in this recording was licensed through Adobe Stock or open source. All views expressed herein are those of the person expressing them and do not necessarily represent the views of the Odysseus Legion, Catalyst Game Labs, or the Catalyst Demo team. Part of the onus for creating this was just when we were all standing around in a parking lot for 2 hours just talking about BattleTech. I'm just like, we could just record this.
I had a moment, so I go to school right now, when I was explaining something to someone, and then someone who is unrelated to this conversation butts in, is like, hey, just so you know, you could, I think you would do really well as a podcaster, and listening to that, it's just I am gonna fucking collapse into myself right now. You it did not know I was doing this, and is just called shotting me from orbit, and I'm just listen, man, you know what? I've done it. I have one. I'm not telling you where to find it. You guys get worked up on the CDT server, and then this podcast just turns into 15 minutes of therapy for whatever nonsense you've dealt with. I apologize for bringing you into this on that side, Zess.